All right, what if I told you that the single most important lesson for building wealth, it has absolutely nothing to do with picking hot stocks and everything to do with conquering the enemy in the mirror? Well, today, we're going to unlock that very secret from one of the most legendary investing books ever written.
Okay, so to understand how to succeed, we've first got to figure out why so many people fail, right? And the answer? It's probably not what you're thinking. It's not about Wall Street, it's not the economy, it's not even bad luck. Nope, it's about something way, way closer to home.
And this quote, it comes from a pretty surprising source, Sir Isaac Newton. I mean, think about it. This is the guy who basically discovered gravity, unlocked the fundamental secrets of the universe, and yet, even he admitted he just couldn't get his head around the madness of people in financial markets.
And look, this wasn't just some abstract thought for him. Oh no, Newton actually got swept up in the emotion of the South Sea bubble, this huge stock market mania back in the 1720s. He invested, he sold for a massive profit, but then he watched his friends get even richer. Classic FOMO, right? So he jumped back in, right at the very top, and he lost a fortune. That number you're seeing? That's what his loss would be worth in today's money. Ouch.
So this all brings us to a really crucial point, one made by the legendary investor Benjamin Graham. And his logic was simple. He basically said, hey, if a mind as brilliant as Isaac Newton's could be completely wrecked by emotion, what chance do the rest of us really have? Graham's conclusion was blunt but simple. The investor's biggest problem and their absolute worst enemy is almost always themselves.
So, the big question is, how do we conquer this enemy within? Well, our guide for that is Benjamin Graham. You've got to understand, this guy was one of the greatest practical investment thinkers of all time. Before him, managing money was kind of like a game of guesswork and superstition. But Graham, he turned it into a real discipline.
And this is his masterpiece, The Intelligent Investor. Seriously, forget all those books about picking the next hot stock. This is different. This is a manual for your mind. It teaches you the emotional framework and the analytical tools you need to actually succeed financially. And its lessons, they are absolutely timeless. I'd argue they're more critical now than ever before.
And hey, you don't have to just take my word for it. Listen to this. This is the verdict from Warren Buffett, Graham's most famous student, and let's be honest, probably the most successful investor in history. Buffett read this book when he was just 19 years old, and he says it completely changed his life. This book is literally the foundation of his entire fortune. That's a pretty big deal.
Okay, this brings us to the absolute heart of Graham's entire philosophy. And it's a critical distinction that, honestly, most people just completely miss. Graham argues that what so many of us call investing, well, it isn't investing at all. It's something else entirely.
So Graham poses this really fundamental question. What's the real dividing line here? What is it that true investors do that separates them from the rest of the crowd? The crowd that, just like Sir Isaac Newton, ultimately gets burned by the madness of the people.
And here's his answer. This is Graham's super precise definition of what investing actually is. And trust me, every single word here matters. First, thorough analysis. That just means you've got to do your homework. Second, safety of principle. That means your number one priority is not losing your money. And third, an adequate return. Notice he says adequate, not get rich quick. It's not about a wild gamble. And Graham is crystal clear. If what you're doing doesn't meet all three of those criteria, it's not investing, it's speculating.
So you can see these are two completely different worlds. Two totally different mindsets. The investor, they do their homework. They prioritize not losing money. They think like they're actually buying a piece of a real, living, breathing business. But the speculator, they're just betting on which way the market's going to swing. They're chasing a quick profit, and they're obsessed with the price on the screen, not the real value of the company behind it.
Here's maybe the simplest way to put it. An investor calculates what a stock is actually worth. A speculator just gambles that the price will go up. See the difference? One person judges the price based on value, the other person judges the value based on the price. It's night and day. One is a business owner, the other is a gambler.
Now you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds a little old-fashioned, but believe me, this exact confusion between investing and speculating leads to disaster over and over and over again. Let's look at a much more recent example of pure speculative madness that was disguised as some clever investment system.
So, picture this. It's the 1990s, the early days of the internet. A new, seemingly brilliant formula for picking stocks starts getting incredibly popular online.
And it was marketed as this totally foolproof system for the average person to get rich.
It had a catchy name. It was called the Foolish Four. And the idea was simple. You just follow this mechanical process, pick 4 specific stocks from the Dow Jones based on their price and their dividend. The people pushing it claimed it was a surefire way to beat the Wall Street pros from your living room.
And the hype, oh my gosh, the hype was just incredible. You were told you could crush your mutual funds with minimal risk, and it would only take you 15 minutes a year. I mean, who wouldn't want that? It was pure, unadulterated speculation, just dressed up to look like a really sophisticated strategy. But you can probably guess what happened. It was a complete disaster. It failed Graham's 3-part test on every level. There was zero thorough analysis, and dumping a huge chunk of your money into just a few stocks is the exact opposite of safety of principle. So instead of trashing the market, the formula trashed investors. It just completely failed, and the people who followed it lost a lot of money. It was just another fad, gone as quickly as it came.
Okay, so if we're supposed to avoid speculation and follow Graham's path, what does that actually look like in the real world? What is the ultimate secret to becoming a truly intelligent investor?
Well, according to Graham, his entire philosophy really rests on these 4 big ideas. Number 1, a stock isn't just a ticker symbol, it's an ownership interest in a real business. You're not buying a lottery ticket, you're becoming a part owner. Number 2, the market is like a pendulum, swinging wildly between insane optimism and unjustified pessimism. Your job is to ignore the hype and fear. Number 3, you have to always insist on a margin of safety. That just means buying something for less than it's really worth. And finally, and this is the most important one, your behavior is way more important than the market's behavior. You have to master yourself.
And this brings us to the final, most crucial point of all, the one thing that holds all of this together. So what does it really take to be an intelligent investor? What's the single most important quality you need to have?
And you know what? Here's the most empowering part of this whole thing. It has absolutely nothing to do with having a stratospheric IQ or being the smartest person in the room. As we saw with Newton, a high IQ is no defense at all. And it's not about finding some secret foolish 4 formula. It's about something you already possess: discipline, patience, and emotional control.
And that, right there, is the ultimate secret. That is the most important thing you'll ever learn about building wealth. Success in investing isn't about outsmarting everybody else. It's about out-disciplining them. As Graham said, this kind of intelligence is a trait more of the character than of the brain. It's a test of your character, not your intellect. And that is a test that anyone, and I mean anyone, including you, has the power to pass.